G'day guys, my name is Caleb, otherwise known as the Critic Kebab, and the 92nd Academy Awards is coming up, and I thought I'd do something new on the channel before the ceremony. I will be discussing my thoughts on each of the films nominated for Best Picture at this year's Oscars. I will have a playlist with all the reviews, so make sure you check that out, and if you do enjoy this video, please hit that like button. Now, the film I will be reviewing in this video is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The ninth film from Quentin Tarantino is a classic 60s Hollywood period piece that stars Leonardo DiCaprio as Rick Dalton, a famous television actor, and Brad Pitt as Cliff Booth, the loyal friend and stunt double for Rick Dalton. This film does not follow a clear, structured plot. Instead, it focuses on the characters and their emotional journey going through the film industry during the final years of Hollywood's golden age. The story takes place in 1969, and the once famous Rick Dalton comes to the realization that his career may be going nowhere. I want to start this review by stating that there will most likely be differences in opinion about this movie. Tarantino's artistic style is an acquired taste, so I can totally see people loving this film, hating this film, or just thinking it's fine. I've enjoyed some of Tarantino's previous films, such as Pulp Fiction and Inglourious Basterds, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood didn't quite capture my full attention. Now, I'm going to give you my quick, spoiler-free thoughts on the film. So, let's get started by talking about the positives. Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio both shine in this film. They give great performances that have really serious moments and truly hilarious moments. The dialogue throughout the film is fantastic, and there are plenty of pure, wacky one-liners that made me chuckle. Their chemistry really worked on screen, and I loved their blunt back and forth. The set design was also fantastic. The film does a great job of revitalizing classic Hollywood, and you can tell there is a deep love and care from the crew behind the camera. The movie overall looks stunning. As for negatives, I found myself disinterested in many scenes. Because this is a character-driven story, the plot is not the primary focus, which in some movies can work very well. But here, there is no sense of consistent momentum or rising tension. As a result, I found myself bored in a few scenes. If you ever ask yourself whilst watching a movie, where are we really going with this? That's a problem. If you ask that same question multiple times throughout a movie, that's a really big problem. And for me, I unfortunately had this problem. Margot Robbie is in this film, and she plays Sharon Tate. And I thought her being in this film was pointless. Margot Robbie is wasted here, and whilst I enjoyed her screen presence, her character offered very little to the movie-going experience. And those are my spoiler-free thoughts on the film. The acting is great, Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth are amazing protagonists, the film is beautiful to look at, and there are tons of funny moments. For me personally, whilst I did enjoy the two main characters, I didn't feel as connected and invested in them because of the unfocused storytelling structure. The beginning of the film is fun, the middle is dull, and the ending is brilliant. However, not everyone will be satisfied with the payoff. If you are a fan of Quentin Tarantino films, definitely check this out if you haven't already. But if the idea of a slow burn comedy that is about classic Hollywood doesn't appeal to you, then I wouldn't waste 2 hours and 40 minutes of your time. Now I'm going to transition into my spoiler chat. So if you haven't seen this movie yet, now is your time to leave. I will still be giving my letter grade at the end of the video. Now, I only just saw this movie, because unfortunately I missed out on seeing it in theaters. So my opinion on some things may change over time. The first thing I want to talk about in the spoiler chat is, of course, that ending. Now, I am not familiar with this specific time frame in history or any of these people it's involving, But in typical Tarantino fashion, he has decided to change history drastically from what actually happened in reality, according to my research at least. The action-packed ending definitely leans into the title of the film. And can I just say, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a fantastic title. But that's really what this is. It's loosely adapting this time in history and then putting a unique, fun twist on it. Hence, Once Upon a Time. I love how at the beginning of the film we have that great scene where we see how well trained Cliff's dog is with his food, and that comes back at the end when he is ready to maul these intruders and he's just waiting for Cliff to give the signal. That was an expertly written setup and payoff, and boy was it satisfying seeing these guys get brutally murdered. Again, more great writing when Rick pulls out the flamethrower from his shed. This was set up clearly at the beginning where we see him training how to use it with that hilarious line,
Shit, that's right. All right, that's too hot. Anything we can do about that heat?
Rick, it's a flamethrower.
Yeah.
and then firing it in the TV show. Seeing him whip that thing out at the end and burn that chick was gnarly. This entire film didn't really go in the way I was expecting it. There were scenes and character moments that didn't really seem to have any relation to each other, but obviously some of it culminated and we get this batshit crazy ending that honestly made my jaw drop and my mouth stayed open in shock for a couple minutes straight. For some people, the journey getting to this moment won't be worth it, but for me personally, I felt this final set piece was entertaining enough for me to lean more towards enjoying the movie rather than not. However, just because the ending of the movie is incredibly entertaining doesn't excuse the flaws earlier in the film. What I enjoyed most about this movie was the Rick Dalton character. DiCaprio plays it so well, but his seriousness is what makes him endearing and likable. The moment when he forgets his lines and then goes back to his trailer and has that massive outburst was hilarious. But deep down, you're sympathizing with him because you believe what he is saying and you know he is actually trying. Instead of judging him, you side with him. And that is thanks to DiCaprio's outstanding performance, in my opinion. This was capped off for me when he has that scene with the little girl. He absolutely nails it, and afterwards she whispers in his ear,
"That was the best acting I've ever seen in my whole life."
Like you.
His reaction is so earned and satisfying. That might be my favorite character moment in the film. Now, the storyline with the hippies was inconsequential to me. For most of it, I was wondering what significance it had overall. And of course the hippies come back at the end to tie it all together. But whilst Cliff was flirting with the hippie girl and whilst he was looking for George, I didn't really feel any narrative trajectory. There was a little bit of tension, but then it just peters out once we do discover George. It was an interesting story beat, but I didn't find myself compelled by the situation or feel any stakes for Cliff's character, especially because he is in control of that situation the whole time. Bruce Lee has a small role in the film, and he is played by Mike Moe, and some people, especially his family, were not happy about his portrayal. Because this film is exploiting its creative freedom and not being historically accurate at all, I believe that what they did with the character was fine, and this is what Quentin Tarantino said himself.
I don't think I make Bruce Lee look that bad. I will admit I'm having a little bit of fun at his expense, all right? I will admit that. There's a touch of parody in there.
I personally think his portrayal is in bad taste, but I do not criticize Tarantino at all for using his artistic license. And finally, I want to talk briefly about the use of narration. As soon as that 6-month time jump happened, I felt as if I was watching another movie. The narration is used a lot in order to catch you up on the story. And yes, this is lazy screenwriting, but I just felt it was so different tonally to the rest of the film. Maybe it's supposed to invoke that feeling of films from that era that used narration, but to me, it just felt very weird to be used for so long. And those are my thoughts on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. A solid film that has plenty of great moments, but also a few moments that just feel tedious to get through. I'm going to give this picture a B. What are your thoughts on Tarantino's 9th film? Did you love it, hate it, or fall somewhere in between like I did? Let me know down in the comments below. Now, if you've made it this far, thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button, share it with your friends, and if you are new to the channel, click that subscribe button and make sure notifications are turned on. I don't believe this will win the Best Picture, but maybe the Academy will feel particularly pretentious and vote for it because it's about classic Hollywood. We'll soon find out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in another video.